Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Blake Creamer, and today's episode is all about cutting through the noise. We're running an over-under check on 6 players whose fantasy value is being shaped by early season variance. I've got 3 guys who are overperforming compared to their underlying metrics and 3 who are quietly underperforming despite really strong indicators under the hood. We're going to talk about metrics that actually tell us whether these performances are sustainable or if there's regression coming. It's going to be a quick hit breakdown so you know exactly who to buy, who to hold, and who might be skating on borrowed time. This is Over Under. Let's get to biz. Oh, yeah. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast on this beautiful Friday. We're doing stuff, and it feels good. I love talking fantasy puck. We had a nice little 10-gamer here on Thursday. I hope your matchups are all going really well. I'm actually in a matchup with Nate right now in the APL Tier 1, and we're getting to biz. All right, Nate's put me through my paces. I'm up on him by a few points, but it's going to be a close matchup. We should have something really fun to talk about here on the Sunday show. So, yeah, but other than that, I'm excited to get into this episode here for you. Got 6 players locked and loaded. I want to get right into it. We're talking about players that are overperforming and underperforming for fantasy hockey. Let's do it. Okay, first player I want to talk about, Luke Hughes of the New Jersey Devils. Hughes has had a really decent stretch here lately with Dougie Hamilton on the shelf, dealing with a minor injury, but he certainly hasn't hit in the way that we thought that he might in his third full year. He has yet to score this season, 17 games. He has 9 assists, so that's fine. 2 of those assists are on the power play. That's fine. But it's underwhelming, right? It's underwhelming for sure. He's had some opportunity to do stuff out there, but he's also looked a little lost at times, throwing the puck away, bobbling it a little bit. He hasn't looked confident in some of the Devils games that I've seen. So that's kind of an interesting piece, something to watch. But the power play has been really good for the New Jersey Devils. Keefe's been rotating pieces out there, though, and that's been really frustrating based on the other team's penalty kill, right? And we've all kind of seen this here. But, yeah, it looks like Mercer and Hamilton were sort of together, and then Luke Hughes and Timo Meier would be together for 2 completely different looks for that power play unit. So, yeah, I like the customization there, Sheldon Keefe. That's really nice for actual hockey, but we're playing fantasy here, you ding-dong. What are you doing? You got to put these guys out on the ice. I don't know. We don't want change. We fear change. We want stability. All right. And I want Luke Hughes on that power play. But yeah, with Dougie out, it's kind of tip top here for Luke Hughes. But yeah, the way that Keefe is running that power play when Dougie Hamilton is in the lineup, that's definitely capping some of Luke Hughes' upside. But he's getting enough that he should have more than the 43-point pace he's currently running. So let's look at some of the Devils team metrics and then Hughes' individual underlying metrics. Okay. Devils, they've been really middling actually at 5-on-5, which is an interesting piece. They're 20th overall in expected goals for and 19th overall in actual goals for. So yeah, right in line of where they should be, but that seems low to me. Special teams have really been propping them up, keeping them afloat. Devils are cooking at the 8th best conversion rate in both the power play and in the penalty kill. So that's a nice piece. Really good, but they got to get going at 5-on-5 here. This team is too offensive, too many studs to be, 20th overall in expected goals. It's crazy stuff. I think, though, that with Sheldon Keefe here as the head coach, gone are the days of, this fire wagon brand of hockey that the Devils played under Lindy Ruff, right? Like just rush chance for, rush chance against, rush chance for, rush chance against, right? They still do have 2 of the best rush players in the game in Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes, but I think Keefe has them playing kind of on the right side of the puck a lot more, which is good for actual hockey, but damn it, talking fantasy. And I think it will actually take a little bit of the ceiling away from some of the best offensive players on the team, guys like Jack Hughes in particular, right? I think that's like a 120-point guy, but maybe under Keefe, it's more like 105, 110, maybe even 100 guy, right? But we're not talking about Jack. We're talking about Luke here, all right? It's nothing crazy, but we need to recognize just sort of the offensive systems and structures they're doing here in New Jersey. Luke Hughes has been playing recently with Brendan Dillon, which has been okay, but they've been sort of treading water out there to some degree in terms of things like Corsi for percentage, right? Which is just over 50%. Okay, that's fine when they're out there together. The expected goals for percentage is a little bit better with Dillon and Hughes. That's at 58%. So yeah, tilting the ice a little bit, but it's been Luke Hughes' play as of late with Dougie out that has me feeling a little bit more optimistic about the player. Last 5 games, let's look at that. He's 23rd overall amongst defensemen in shots on goal per 60, 8th in individual scoring chances for per 60, and 29th in individual expected goals per 60. Good numbers, right? That's fine. He's been skating a whopping 26-45 over that span, which is really, really nice. And he also got a shout out recently from the head coach after Wednesday's OT win. Things are starting to go in the right direction. They're trending up. Still only the 2 assists there in 5 games, but the underlyings are looking good, right? And then the last 3 games with Dougie Hamilton out, Hughes has had all the power play time on ice, as he should. And I just think that the fact Keefe has the confidence to trot out Luke Hughes for these massive minutes bodes really well for his potential once Dougie returns, right? Because it doesn't sound like a long-term injury for Dougie Hamilton. So I think, yeah, we're going to have to see what's what when he does get back. But Luke Hughes he's showing out pretty well, with Dougie out. Okay. It's worth mentioning as well, Luke Hughes started out last season with 0 goals in the first 16 games as well, and finished with 7 by the end of the year. I think, looking at these metrics, the confidence I have in the player, those goals are going to come. I think he is a buy low, right? And you might be able to get him due to these power play shenanigans that Keefe is doing when everyone is healthy, right? You can use that as kind of a, I'll take them off your hands kind of thing, right? Like there's a little bit of variance there, right? But I think the secret with Luke Hughes is that I don't think he needs the full power play 1 treatment to be valuable for fantasy. He's not bringing a lot of periffs to the table, so we have to recognize that. But this is a quite an offensive player, and he's touching the puck a lot out there, right? It's a very simple thing, but when I watch Devils games, Luke Hughes is all over the puck, and I love to see that. He's a guy that drives play at an elite level, in my opinion, and he has a bunch of studs to pass the puck to out there. What's his forward core? So I think that the Devils are going to regress positively at even strength. They are 9th in the league in shots for per 60 and Corsi for per 60 at 5-on-5, 9th in the league, right? So yeah, the expected goals aren't really there, but they're still chucking pucks, and that's a start, right? I like that. This team's too good to be, 20th overall in expected goals for, as I said. So they've had some poor puck luck, Hughes included. This is definitely a player who is underachieving. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about our next player here from the Anaheim Ducks, Jacob Trouba. What? We're talking about Jacob Trouba here, folks. I'm here for it. All right. I don't have a ton to say about Trouba, but this has been a best case scenario start for him. And this is a player that clearly needed a scenery change. And since he's got to the Ducks, he's been trusted by head coach Guenther to play big minutes and even in an offensive role. That's wild, right? That is not what I expected. He's got 12 points in his last 12 games. Damn, Jacob, what are you doing? Damn, Jacob. Yeah, he's doing that. He's putting up some points on the board there. I don't know. I lost my train of thought, but that's fine. He's 12 points in the last 12 games for Jacob Trouba, 14 points all of last season. Let that sink in, folks, right? He does have some underrated skills in his bag. People forget that Jacob Trouba actually had 50 points. Did you know this, folks? 50 points in his last season with the Jets before joining the Rangers. Not too shabby. I'd be lying if I said I thought he would be anything more than a Bangers League player, right? But here we are, right? He's doing well. I'm actually rostering Jacob Trouba in a points league with Banger waiting, and I'm loving life. All right, this guy's crushing for me. So we need to look under the hood here with Jacob Trouba and see what's what. And when you do, it's as you would expect, right? Career highs in a few spots. 5-on-5 IPP, he's cooking at 52%, right? Which is high for any defenseman, not just Jacob Trouba, right? His shooting percentage at 5-on-5, 12%. That's a career high, with his next best number being 7.3%. So he's really redlining there. On-ice shooting percentage, sky high as well at 12.34%. What? Again, crazy stuff. Needless to say, that's all going to go down, right? That's going to regress downwards. That said, I like Jacob Trouba's role on this team, and it's sort of coincided with Radko Gudas going down to injury. Trouba's been playing big minutes, his highest time on ice total in 7 seasons. So that's really great to see, because when you got a peripheral beast like Jacob Trouba, you want him to get a ton of ice time. So he's a fun player for fantasy when he's getting this kind of deployment and treatment. He brings those massive hits and block numbers, and that hasn't changed with the Ducks. And now he's scoring on top of that, which is really nice to see. Don't expect a 58-point pace moving forward, though, folks. Like, that's crazy. But I don't hate a 40 to 45-point pace rest of season with the continued periffs. And that is absolutely rosterable for Jacob Trouba. He's been playing alongside Olen Zellweger. You had me at hello. He's had a strong start as well, right? And is well known, Olen Zellweger, if you've listened to this podcast at all, to be a pretty great play driver. And I think the pairing with Jacob Trouba, he sort of anchored that pairing defensively and allowed Zellweger to run around a bit and join the rush. Trouba hasn't been a slouch there either. You dig in on some of his expected goal metrics. He's 27th amongst defensemen in individual expected goals per 60. Jacob Trouba, 27th. That is not something I would have expected going into the season. So really nice stuff. Clearly a player, though, that is overachieving, right? But I'm here for it, damn it. I love to see it. I hated what happened with him and the Rangers last year under Laviolette. Now with the Ducks, he's got a coach who trusts him, and you can see it in Trouba's play. I believe that, his strong play is absolutely sustainable. The points, I think that's going to regress, and that makes some sense, but I think he's going to be a big piece of this Ducks team and their continued success. Okay? All right. Let's move on. Talk about another player here. Dylan Guenther. Look what they did to my boy. Dang. Okay. Been a rough stretch for our hero. Dilly McWilty. That's Dylan Guenther when he's on a cold streak. We call him Dilly McWilty. Okay. That's what my wife calls me. All right. No context given whatsoever. All right. I don't know. You're getting the whole shebang here tonight, folks. Let's get back to Dylan Guenther. All right. Last 5 games has not been vintage Dylan Guenther here. Just 1 goal, and his time on ice has plummeted for some inexplicable reason. Andre Torini, how dare you, sir? Guenther played 13:53 in the Mammoths' last game against the Sabres, and they made some changes there to the lines. He's currently playing without Logan Cooley on his line. Still with Jason Peterka, which is nice, but Hayton was centering them last game. So that's an interesting piece. I did look in here on some of the metrics of their line, and I'll get into that in a second. But, back to some of this deployment shenanigans here with Dylan Guenther. In fairness, he doesn't kill penalties, and there was only 1 power play for the team in their last game. Also, they were protecting a lead, so it kind of makes some sense in a deranged sort of way, right? But yeah, that can chalk it up last game there to, that's what was happening. But what do we do when Andre Torini is putting him on power play 2, right? Which didn't stick. He was back on power play 1 last game, but why are you putting Dylan Guenther down there? It doesn't make any sense, right? So I don't like that, right? You got your best shooter on the second unit. I think Andre Torini is galaxy braining out there, trying to shake things up, but this one is a bit of a head scratcher for me. Anyways, good news. He's back out there on power play 1. And more good news, Utah Mammoth, they're a wagon offensively. Really good stuff from them this year. At 5-on-5, they're 7th overall in expected goals for, 6th overall in actual goals for. It's really been the defense and the goaltending that's let them down here, especially as of late. And they're going to need to figure that out, right? They're getting behind in games and, trying to scratch and claw their way back in. Dylan Guenther, even in the last 5 games, though, he's been popping off under the hood as usual. 17th overall in shots and goal per 60 in the last 5 games, 52nd overall in individual expected goals per 60. I think that's going to go up. And his numbers are even better than that on the season. This is a cold spell for sure with Guenther, and the up and down deployment is concerning to say the least, but I'd also like to see Logan Cooley back on that line. When that trio was together, they were 13th in the league as a line in expected goals for, right? Just raw expected goals for, 13th in the league. And they were 8th overall in the entire league as a line in shot attempts for. So they're really tilting the ice out there. They're generating a ton of shots, chances, looks for their line, right? Obviously, that line needs to suppress some of those shot attempts coming back, right? But Guenther and company, I think they're doing the right things for fantasy. the things that equal production. And I would imagine this deployment is just an outlier here. It's really been the last 3 games in particular that's been rough. So hopefully we get back to Biz, to what he's done before, because the games before that, yeah, they had no problem trotting him out for 18 plus minutes. And that's how we get back to it. All right. He's got a 63-point pace right now. I mean, Guenther is clearly underachieving. And I think it should be closer to 75 points or more with his talent and the talent around him. So I think you should buy low on Dylan Guenther. And I feel good about that. Okay. Get this man on your squad. And if you have him on your squad, just stick it out. All right. Stop complaining. Stop it. Stop whining. Be happy to have Dylan Guenther on your team. All right. Let's talk about the next player. Sorry, I'm getting spicy here. I don't know what's going on. We got to talk about Bertuzzi. Tyler Bertuzzi of the Chicago Blackhawks. We're talking about him on a fantasy hockey podcast, folks. The year is 2025. What are we doing? This guy's crushing right now. This freaking unit blasted off last week. It was an all-time streamer. 8 points in his last 4, including 6 goals. Hot diggity. Okay. Just as we prognosticated here on Apple's Geo's Fantasy Hockey Podcast, with Frank Nazar on the shelf right now, Bertuzzi's been playing a lot of minutes with Connor Bedard, and that truly means something this season here. Bedard is starting to flirt with his true potential. He's on a 125-point pace himself, Connor Bedard. Sheesh. Love to see it. Needless to say, Bertuzzi has been along for the ride, and he's been delivering. One of my hot takes, actually, this offseason, if you go back to our hot takes episode, was that the Blackhawks would have a top 10 power play again, and they are well on the way. I mean, right now they're 4th best in the conversion rate to go along with the 5th best penalty kill rate. That, again, very unexpected. And I think head coach Jeff Blashill has this team playing a lot more controlled, right? On the right side of the puck again. Bertuzzi he's a staple on that top power play unit. He's got a 68% power play share, and he's already has 8 power play points this season. Really nice stuff. I do think that the Chicago power play is for real. I think it's going to continue to smash this year. And I would pencil Bert in for 20 plus power play points. That's a nice place to be. To me, it's even strength where I think we need to dig a little deeper into some of Bertuzzi's metrics. And the truth is, there are a couple things that I like. Number one, he's getting more minutes at 5-on-5 than he has in the past. So that's nice to see. A minute and a half more, actually, than he did just last year. So he's gained the coach's confidence. Love to see that. It goes a long way, right? And then secondly, shots on goal per 60 are up from last year, not to previous levels that he has been in the past, but they're trending in the right direction. So I think we've got some headroom there, and his individual scoring chances 4 per 60 are trending upwards as well. So those are all good things for Bertuzzi, and especially that access to Bedard. Like, that's a big part of it, but he's also doing the thing out there. Then I think we do need to look at some of these red flags, right? Some of these sell high markers. Shooting percentage for Bertuzzi, career high at all strengths, right? So is the on-ice shooting percentage. The line is running hot, okay? Shooting percentage at all strengths is 25%. Do we think that's going to continue, folks? I think not, right? But Bertuzzi can be a very efficient shooter, has been in the past, just not 25% efficient. So I don't think the drop-off is going to be that steep, especially considering he has Bedard as a potential line mate at even strength, and definitely with the man advantage. Bedard is on one this year. He looks like he's really come to play and taken another step in his development. So I love that for Bertuzzi here. I should shout out Tyler Bertuzzi. He's 35th overall in the league in individual expected goals per 60. That's on the season, right? That's a really, really nice mark. 35th in the league. Tyler Bertuzzi. That's what we're doing here, folks. So regardless of shots on goal, that he is taking, which are a little bit lower, the ones that he is taking and getting on net, they are high danger, and they have a much better than average chance of going in. So that hence your high shooting percentage, right? That's a great place to be for fantasy. He's on a 77-point pace, though. What? No. I think that he can come close to his career high, which is 62 points, which he got in 2021-22. I think he's in a good position to do that. He's in a good position with his team. And, he's actually counted on night in and night out for his production. And so far, he's really delivered, like I said. That said, this is someone who is overachieving big time. Hopefully, you got him for his big week last week. And remember, the Blackhawks have a great streaming week here coming up. So make sure he isn't out there on your wire. Tyler Bertuzzi, thank you for your service. Okay. Let's move on. We're almost done, folks. I got 2 more players to talk about. First player I'm going to talk about, Thomas Harley of the Dallas Stars. It's been a rough go for Harley owners. I'm one of them. I've got him in a couple spots. Were we duped? Were we duped with this man here? Is he not the second coming of Sergei Zubov? Any Sergei Zubov fans out there? I always in NHL 90, I don't know, when did Zubov play? God, 95, 96, 97. Zubov was always my favorite defenseman, so I always made sure he was on my team, as I should. All right, he's a legend. Anyways, Harley, yeah, he's been serviceable with 10 points in 18 games, but that's not what we expected. That's not what we were sold. With his play last year, obviously, last year played amazing. Heiskanen went down with an injury, then Harley went buck wild, right? Dallas power play last year was sputtering with Miro at the helm, and it flourished with Harley when he became the quarterback there when Miro went down. He also played lights out, surprisingly, at the Four Nations tournament, and his stock went way up there. And I think the general consensus was that he was going to be the number one defenseman there in Dallas and was going to quarterback that top unit. It's still early, folks, but I think we just need to be patient here. And when you have expectations, they're really killers, right? You have an expectation of a player and they don't come close. It's only been 18 games, but it's still been pretty stinky. It hurts, right? It stings. So patience is required here with Harley. That said, we need to dig in on some of the metrics here. So let's do that. Obviously, Harley has a 30% power play share, which is really that's kind of the problem, right? Like last year, he had a 47% power play share. This year, 30. It's not good, right? That makes a big difference. I think it's obviously the main reason he doesn't have more points. Dallas, as a team, they're similar to the Devils when I spoke about Luke Hughes, in that they aren't scoring goals at even strength, but the Stars are even worse at even strength, which is crazy. They're 29th overall in expected goals and in actual goals. So that's showing no good. That's very surprising. I mean, I was reading something recently from Jack Hahn on Twitter, just talking about the Dallas Stars offense and how Glenn Gulletson has made some changes there that really haven't been for the better. He was talking about the defensemen moving the puck ahead, heading north before they are properly connected to the forwards. So there's too much gap. There's too much disconnection there between the forwards and the defensemen. And they're kind of just getting rid of it, the defensemen, and instead of being as involved as they were under Pete DeBoer, right? So it's a little bit dumbed down version of what they were doing before. And Jack Hahn does think that Harley's struggles might be for that exact reason, right? This is a player that is very talented. He wants the puck touches. He wants to be involved in the play a lot more. But under this kind of new system that they're running, he's kind of passing the puck off and watching the play, right? He's more of a spectator there. And I think it's also different having a player with the gravity of Rantanen on your squad as well. Like he's a true superstar there. I mean, Jason Robertson, he's a star for sure, but he's not a superstar. I think Rantanen is a true superstar, and that is going to change things. That you're going to have to, kind of mold your offense around that player to a degree. So all those things to be said, like it hasn't been a great start for Harley, and the underlying metrics are pretty poor as well, unfortunately, right? Last 5 games, he's 107th amongst defensemen in shots on goal per 60. That's shocking. 115th in individual expected goals per 60. Yikes. But, I truly believe that that has more to do with what I just mentioned than it does with Harley and his skill level. I do think it's worth mentioning as well. I read something today about Thomas Harley battling an injury that's hampered him for a couple weeks here. He's still playing the games, but none of this helps us now, right? But it does sort of give us some context as to why Harley might be having a muted performance out there. So this all said, I do think that Dallas figures it out at even strength. And when they do, I think Harley's going to be a key piece. But for now, I think this is a player who is underachieving based on his talent, but we need to manage expectations moving forward. And this is if this is the way he's going to be deployed, I think, we have to think of things a little bit differently. He's pacing for 46 points. And to me, that sounds about right. And I'm holding, right? I'm not getting rid of Thomas Harley. I think this is still a player that can do a lot more than what he's showing now. If you're over on YouTube, definitely come check this out. This is from our Apples and Ginos player evaluation tool. We have a comparison tool as well, and I've got Thomas Harley and Miro Heiskanen side by side here, and you can really see that, there's some big differences. Obviously, in the last few games here, Harley's been ice cold and Miro is popping off, right? And yeah, the underlying metrics show that. So definitely head on over here. One of the main things, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, but that we see from Miro Heiskanen as opposed to Thomas Harley is the on ice scoring chances for and the expected goals per 60. That is a huge thing. You can see right here, Miro is third in the league in expected goals per 60, on ice expected goals for 60. So they are really driving play when Heiskanen is out there, whereas Thomas Harley is 89th in the last 5 games and 72nd overall on the season. So definitely more offense happening when Heiskanen is out there. But yeah, Thomas Harley underachieving, no question. Hold on that, man. And then the last player I want to talk about, Miro, the hero Heiskanen. We got to talk about him because, yeah, he's looked really great out there. I've been a big fan. I do have Heiskanen in some spots too. In fact, more than Harley. So I felt like it was kind of a consolation prize, but it turns out it was the actual prize, which is a really nice surprise. But should it be that surprising? I don't know. So let's dig in. In my view, as good as Miro has been in the first 18 games, that's how as bad Harley has been now. That's a Family Guy reference, folks. I'm sorry about this. I had to write it down because I like the quote. But Miro's been cooking out there, right? Bam! Heiskanen has 11 points in his last 5 games. He's on pace for 77 points on the year. This guy was being left for dead on draft day, and he's really made his mark early on the season here. With Harley taking a back seat, as I said, with the man advantage, Miro is eating, right? He's got a 71% power play share. He's already got 7 points on the power play. Love that. And they've got the 3rd best power play, Dallas, in terms of conversion. And that is something we were excited about here in the offseason at Apples and Ginos. I just thought it was going to be Harley and not Miro, the one who was going to be getting the biz there. I do remember last year digging in on the power play in Dallas, and they weren't converting with Miro there at the beginning of the season, pretty much the whole time when Miro was there. But, even when he was there, they were still something like top 5 in expected goals with the man advantage, but they were 25th in actual goals for, something like that. I'm estimating, but that was sort of the level. It just indicated that they were generating a ton of chances and shots with Miro as the quarterback, but they were extremely unlucky, right? And then Harley gets in there and the puck starts going in, right? Yes, definitely a different player, but Harley and Heiskanen, to me, have a lot of similarities as well. Both excellent puck rushing defensemen, high hockey IQ. I think Heiskanen may have the better overall, profile as a defenseman. But yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities there. Heiskanen has a lot more experience than Harley, and I think that's a big factor as well. Like Harley's good to go, especially in a dynasty format, but Heiskanen, yeah, he looks good this year. All this to say, it doesn't surprise me that Miro is performing at a high level right now and helping the team on the scoreboard. He's doing a lot of that stuff, though, at an unsustainable rate, right? And as one might expect, right? 5-on-5, Miro's IPP is 72%. That's wild, right? That's going to come down, and I think going to come down pretty quick. He's in on everything out there, right? Shooting percentage at 5-on-5 high as well. He's redlining. The interesting thing, though, on-ice shooting percentage for Miro Heiskanen at 5-on-5, kind of low, right? And that is indicative of a Dallas team that's a bit disconnected at 5-on-5. Like I mentioned before with Harley, I think that, Glenn Gultson needs to take a look at that and find ways to get these studs, Heiskanen and Harley, back in the play at even strength, right? Kind of more connected with the offense there. But that's an interesting piece for Heiskanen because I think there's some room to grow there, certainly at 5-on-5, right? For Harley as well, which we know. But Heiskanen popping off, I think even if his shooting percentage goes down, which it will, the on-ice shooting percentage might go up, right? I think it's probably one of those things where the IPP and the shooting percentage go down, but the on-ice shooting percentage goes up, and he's probably able to maintain some modicum of this type of success here, right? The other thing about Heiskanen, I do think power play 1 is his until further notice, which it sucks for Harley owners, but proof is in the pudding, right? This guy's had 30-plus power play point season in the past. He appears to be on his way to hitting that mark again. On the year, he's 37th among defensemen in shots on goal per 60, 40th overall in individual expected goals per 60. Not exactly elite numbers you would expect from this type of performer or what he's been able to do here. So I think it's safe to say that Heiskanen is overachieving. I don't expect 77 points, but I do think that 60 plus is right there for him if he stays healthy. I think somebody's excited that fellow countryman Mikko Rantanen is locked up on this squad. So shout out to Miro Heiskanen. I think it's been a great start for him. And I do think that, yeah, if you picked him up, it was the right play. I think unless he gets injured, it's going to be his to run that power play there. All right, folks. That brings us to the end. Thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate that. If you can, check out the Apples and Ginos Discord. Link is in the description. Get in there. We've got, I think we're like 1 or 2 members away from 2,000. You got to do it. I'll take a look at that. I'm gonna maybe do something special for our 2,000th Discord members. So get your biscuits in there and do it now, and then let me know. DM me, and we'll see what's what. All right, I'm feeling froggy here. Also, please check us out on YouTube. Head on over, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment. All that stuff really helps us out. The main thing it does is it helps us get this out to more people, right? The algorithm, okay? Don't praise the machine, all right? It's listening, watching, judging. But that's it, folks. Sorry, that's all we got for this episode here. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard from came from Natural Stat Trick, terrific free resource, advancedhockeystats.com, terrific paid resource, moneypuck.com, love that as well. Many thanks to my brother for supplying the music here. I also want to shout out Mark Barber, 18 Skaters, who has his own separate Patreon as well. I've been using some of his stuff as well. And plus, he has helped us with his expected goals model here with the Apples and Ginos player evaluation tool. So check out Mark Barber, 18 Skaters Patreon. Give him a follow. Get in there. He's got some great stuff as well. I'll talk about that another time. But that's it, folks. Really appreciate you being here. Celebrate your day. Bye for now.